Okay. Yeah, I don't, yeah. Okay, so you ready?
Ready, I'm ready to get started.
So do you want me to?
You can kick it off, and then I'll take the first slide after this.
All right, everyone, we're going to get started with the next presentation, which is on the Educational Facilities Master Plan. And Nick, yeah, I do hear an echo, but do you hear it?
It's just it's the room.
It's the room? Okay, all right. So, as you know, we have progressed very well with our Educational Facilities Master Plan. We had several recommendations that came out from the consultants, and today we're going to provide you an update as to where we are, what the challenges were, and all the progress that we have made up to now. And it'll be three of us presenting. It'll be Bill Ward, Michael Smith, and myself. So with that, I'm going to give it to Bill Ward to start it off.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's get it. So real quick, I wanted to say thank you to everybody because this has been a long, drawn-out process. We started the master planning process in 2014, a year after Lee got here, and through that time frame, we've met with people throughout this college district, you know, faculty, staff, students, administrators. We've engaged our community leaders, we've engaged our business partners, and a lot of you in this room have provided input throughout those years. And so this was I know it was a long walk, and I know it wasn't easy, and I know there are some things for the future that are not going to be easy ourselves. Just doing the amount of construction that we're talking about getting done in a matter of 3 years is a lot of work. And so before we get going, I just wanted to thank everybody. Thank you guys for your input and your time and your patience to get us to where we are today. We got a little ways to go, but we're at least a good starting point. So to talk with you about our challenges, you know, the college used to we offered career and technical education training and programs for years, but we kind of lost, in my opinion, you know, we lost sight as to kind of how to do that. If you look at in the last number of years of traveling around the country with our chancellor, and then looking at and then going to other meetings and things to kind of look at how others are doing their occupational type trainings, is Pima had a long ways to go. I think our aviation facility was kind of in the lines of what we wanted to develop throughout the college district, and so but we missed the boat, I think, in those instances when it relates to the type of space that we had and what we were looking to do in the future. So we wanted to meet with our business partners, and as you know, like yesterday, Ian had a number of our business partners in the community to do a study session. And so the cool thing about that is we have majorly engaged our community since 2014, and I would say that our community is engaging us now and is majorly involved in kind of where this college is going to go in the future. But as you can see, we don't have to go through all of them, but we were dealing with accreditation challenges, decreasing enrollment, delayed master plan. The college had done a master plan years ago, and then prior to the big bond that was approved in the 90s, in the mid 90s, we had done a master plan, but it wasn't of the type that we finished now. The college had done a pinpoint master plans for each campus. So they looked at West Campus, and then they did a plan for West. And then after all of that, we had done this small educational plan, but really nothing tied together. And in a sense, we were competing against each other with the same programs all over the place. Everybody had to have the same thing. And so, in talking with our business community and completing this process, we were able to find out that there's a lot of better ways and other ways to do things. And so our vision with the community, I mean, if you take a look at our automotive program, not to say that it wasn't a good program or that we weren't training students, but if you go out and you look at what our competition is doing, we're not even close to it. And so and what our competition's doing throughout the U.S. and in other countries is what my opinion, our business partners want to see. That's what the automotive industry wants to see, not something that's kind of mimics of what we did in the 70s and 80s. And so the traditional models of funding, as the Chancellor stated earlier, we lost a pile of money, and as we lose enrollment, then we continue to lose funds. And so that was a model that was something that we also looked at, and with partnering with Dave B. and his team, and the college was able to go out, and Dave and his team worked really hard to secure a $65 million revenue bond for us to do all this work, and so we're really excited about that. And then our delivery. One of the things that what we had mentioned earlier is that we were competing against each other, offering the same type of possibly occupational type programs or other types of programs throughout the district, and we were, in my opinion, we're pretty competing against each other pretty hard. And then the other thing we wanted to look at that was a big challenge for us is how do we get students to stay on our campus? You know, if you look at the whole discussion we've been having lately related to food services, you know, the college has been doing that a certain way. Not just us, a lot of people have been offering food services like we do, and that model doesn't seem to really work anymore. And so our goal was to look at not just the facilities in general, or how things would be set up, or spaces related to where students can sit and study and congregate and talk to each other, but also too, how are we going to get them to stay here and take advantage of other things that we offer at the college. So these were a number of our challenges. I'm sure you guys can think of more, but just kind of wanted to set the stage, and we'll turn this over to Michael Smith.
Good morning, everybody. So one of the things that we talked about when we were going around doing our presentations is we were sharing the competing internal processes that we had. The district was operating as a multi-college rather than a multi-campus district. And whenever you do that, you're having all these different campuses and competing for resources, you're competing for students, you're duplicating your programs. And so I'm really proud that the college has turned that around. We're now focusing on kind of looking at these issues as a district rather than each individual campus. And it's made a huge improvement in how the college is functioning. Rather than having one-off programs, and then also, you know, duplicating efforts with nursing being in several different areas, now we're able to start realigning those, and as we start to implement the Centers of Excellence, we're going to see how we can bring those programs together. One of the big lessons that we learned was to structure an effective leadership team early in the process. So having the educational and facilities master plan, getting everyone together so that we can start talking to the consultants, let them know how we're going to be moving forward, made a huge difference in the success of this process that we went through. Initiating more provocative ideas in that. One of the big things that I was really proud of when we started working with the faculty and staff with the programming document, when we started talking about the Center of Excellence for Applied Technology, everyone still had this kind of same mindset. They were afraid to ask for something new. You know, they only had 1,000 square feet for welding, you know, or 1,500 square feet for welding. And so we were telling them, you know, we need your ideas about where we're going to be going in the future and how we're going to move this forward. What do you really need for your program? And they're at full capacity. And we finally started to break down those barriers with everyone and get them to start thinking about, like, what if we, you know, blew this wall out and I had 3,000 feet or I had 4,000 feet for this space? What would that look like for your program? What could you do? What could we start bringing in to start helping industry and our community partners? And as we went through that process, it really started to open everybody up for that. One of the other big things too is we were not scared to put everything on the table. That made a big difference, and a lot of other colleges have applauded us for doing that. We put the district office on the table. What happens if we look at selling or leasing any of these other facilities? We weren't afraid to put all of our options on the table, and that really opened us up to where everyone could see that nothing was sacred. We weren't trying to, you know, reserve anything, and that we were taking a really honest, open look at all of our processes and all of our programs. So I'm going to turn it over to Bill. He's going to talk about some of our other lessons that we learned.
Early successes. Well, one of the, what I would kind of tie to what Michael just said, one of the big things for us is when we started this process out, as you guys know, we started with a facilities master plan and a component of the ed plan, and then eventually, as that process got going for about a year, then the college was able to go out and do another RFP and then hire consultants for an ed plan. And those of you who may not know is the consultants that we originally hired, which was the Smith Group, who took the lead on the facility side, they hired another consultant and had actually done work with Pima College years ago as part of our ed planning part. And so when the RFP went out, the reason, and I'll get to why I'm telling you this, they reversed roles and they ended out, you know, getting, in other words, both teams are managing both sides of the process. Well, for us, we were not aware that people had not done that before. That was something that I learned here just this last year with the presentations that we've gone out with the chancellor and others to talk to our partners in the ed industry here, is not too many people had done a facilities and educational plan and a strategic plan all at the same time. And so it's not easy. It's as I say to my people all the time, it's a knockdown, drag out fight sometimes. But with that said, I think when you tackle things that way, projects, in my opinion, are never easy. It's work, it's business, but when you tackle things that way and you get people at the table, good or bad, what we talk about, I think at the end of the day you get end results like this, and we're very proud of it. So some of our early successes is we did the educational master plan priorities and timelines, and as you guys know, we took that forward to the board for approval in 2017. They approved the plans as a concept, and then from that time frame, Dolores and myself and the executive leadership team, our chancellor and others, then we went out and developed a large number of summits that have I think we just finalized one the other day. And so to let you all know that you may not be aware of is that as of when the board approved the concept in 2017, all the work that had been done after that or prior, till today, was done by information that you all provided to us and that stuff that we did ourselves. And so the last year or so of the Educational Facilities Master Plan have been, in other words, we've made all the updates and added things to it, and so have you. A lot of the input that you gave us that was not captured was actually put into the plan. And so that was a big success for us. The other thing, too, is that we've got some takeaways. When we finished with the dental laboratory, which was a Title V grant, and we have had so much great press on that facility and the way that it was set up, and also the partnership that we had with the campus and our grants team. But the community that's come out and looked at it, our business partners, are very excited about. In other words, they're excited that we're going to be doing that type of design and building throughout the college district. Our goal is to ensure that all of this work that we're going to do is going to be at that level of construction. 5 minutes, okay? All right, and then Center of Excellence Summits, I just mentioned, and then the forums. We held a bunch of forums throughout the college district. We had a lot of people show up, from students, staff, faculty, our business community, and as I stated earlier, our Centers of Excellence were very well attended. And we got a lot of great feedback from our business community and our students, and we feel that the feedback that we got really validated where we're going. Dolores.
Thank you. Thank you. Oops. There we go. So continuing with our early successes and some of these items we shared at the board study session last night. So as you know, we've completed 5 summits for the Centers of Excellence, where we invited the business and industry partners, we invited faculty, staff, and students as well. And all of these, we got feedback from what the employers are looking for employees. And it also helped us understand what's needed in redefining and redesigning our curriculum, so we are with the trends of what employees are looking for. So with all of that data that was captured, we're able to make sound decisions on where we're going to be going forward. And throughout the whole process, when the consultants were here at the beginning of the process, they talked to administrators, they talked to faculty, staff, and even students in focus groups on what it is, what it meant to be a Pima College student or employer. And so all of that data is what is captured into the Education and Facilities Master Plan. Some of the recommendations they had were on guided pathways, program review, block scheduling. So with program review, as you know, all of our deans receive data regarding enrollment, persistence, retention, and completion, and also labor statistics, labor market statistics that helps in looking at what we need to do for our curriculum and for program review, improving that. So we've completed 17 programs that were reviewed this past year, and right now we're going through about 25 currently that we're reviewing for program review. Some improvements is that now the program review calendar schedule matches with the college's budget and curriculum processes. Also, something very significant that's improved is that we have the Illumin platform system that is helping with getting data electronically and having a repository so everybody has access at any point to get the data. Guided pathways, almost practically everybody in this room was involved in this, and we're very excited of where we are right now. It was a little bumpy at first, but I think we're all on board with guided pathways and realizing that it's an institutional effort to help with our student success. So we have academic maps, so we have intrusive advising, proactive advising, and specifically 15 to finish and letting our students know that if they take that one more class, they can finish in a more timely manner so they can complete and graduate, go on to either a four-year institution or to get a job. Something very significant, of course, with all these different changes with guided pathways is that everything was submitted to the Department of Education and Title IV financial aid, so everything has been approved. So we're very, very grateful that came at a timely manner, and we're very happy that was a huge thing for us to move forward. Looking at block scheduling, so we don't have block scheduling yet, but we're getting there because we have common end and start times, and Lamada and her team have been working very diligently on getting this done. So we have it for our students and making it possible for them to take the classes that they need to when they want to. I believe Lamada's done student surveys, I've talked to students, and they're very happy with where things are right now with the new common end and start times. The only thing that they're requesting is having more classes offered in the evenings and on the weekends. So we'll be working on that. Another item is the request for a proposal on a resource scheduling system, which is called Ad Astra. And this is, again, using predictive analytics that helps us take more of a proactive approach with scheduling rather than a reactive approach. So we're hoping once Pathways is fully implemented, then we'll be able to use the Ad Astra and block scheduling. Another item I know we're running out of time, but diversity, equity, inclusion. Pima Online, of course, is going to be expanded. We have 20% of our student enrollment coming from Pima Online, so we're hoping to expand on that with our partnerships with Pearson and U of A Online, and among other partners. Diversity, equity, inclusion. This is what I basically shared last night. Just want to highlight a few things from the strategic plan. So one of it was to get the infrastructure and hire a diversity, equity, inclusion officer, which we have, and that's Hilda Ladner. Also, we've hired a coordinator, helping her with the research and reaching out to the community, and that's Yolanda Gonzalez. She's taking that position. Another piece of the strategic plan was to improve recruitment and retention of employees from underrepresented populations. So Hilda has been working very closely with HR, OED, Faculty Affairs and Development with Kay Schmidt about hiring processes and employee retention. Also, we have right now, for everybody who is going to be participating in search committees, they need to take an online workshop to make sure that they are aware of implicit bias. We've developed workshops and that Ilda has presented to faculty and staff and to students. I think the Student Senate had a workshop, everything dealing with equity leadership. So many things have been accomplished, including the Student Resource Center for immigrant students and undocumented students. So we're very excited about that. And there's a posting right now for 2 students, or I think it's for 2, right? Students to work in the Resource Center. So there's so much I want to share, but I know we're running out of time. The Enrollment Center, we're going to be having an interim enrollment center at the West Campus, so we'll be starting that process soon. Faculty Teaching and Learning Center, just yesterday we had interviews for candidates who will be faculty receiving release time to be working and really doing a soft launch of the actual Teaching and Learning Center. It's going to the other side of the slide, Facilities Master Plan Implementation. This again covers what we've done in the summits, working with the business and industry folks. We're excited about starting a Center of Excellence for Computer Science, particularly cyber warfare. There's a great demand for that at the college, in the community, et cetera. The APA Award, wonderfully, congratulations to facilities for receiving this award. This is the second time in 5 years, right? So we're very proud of them. And the revenue bond approved for $65 million funding. So I know I went through this very quickly. I don't know if you have anything to add before we go into questions. Okay. So I think now we can take any questions if you have some. Or you can reflect and then maybe later ask questions. No questions? Okay, sure.
So, why is the college doing this when we're at the same time reducing the operations of the institution in terms of RIFs, et cetera?
That's an excellent question, because that's one of the top 10. Go ahead.
Okay. The reason we're doing this is that, one, we're ensuring that we have the right space. You know, a number of the programs that we're looking at doing throughout the district and enhancing, not just new programs, but ones that we're enhancing, we don't have the right type of space for it. And we need to develop the right type of space. So I think that when you're going through situations like this, to where there is a potential reduction of staffing and others. But for me, that's our biggest perspective, is to ensure that we have the right space to do the type of education that we're trying to do here at the college.
And I'd like to add also about program relevancy, and the centers of excellence. So we are looking at our programs and determining what is the need for the community, and basing on that, on the labor statistics, what we need to do to draw students. So the centers of excellence are hubs, really, to increase our enrollment by getting relevant programs, certificates, degrees, making sure that we're in partnership with the community. Then we can increase our enrollment. And so I think this is actually, even though it's a difficult time, it sounds like Charles Dickens, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. But we're trying to make this a hub for our employers and employees that will come out of Pima Community College.
Hi, I don't have a question, but rather it's a comment, because I recently received from the Department of Education what our school's cohort default rate is. And so it looks back the past 3 years to look at students that go into repayment of their student loans and the ability to pay back. And seeing all these pieces that we've put in place is significant, because the key #1 factor for students to be able to pay back on their student loans is to stay in school and to finish their programs of study so that they can then be able to have a job. Our cohort rate has been pretty flat at 20.9%. We're slightly above the national rate for community colleges, but in everything that we've been talking about today, additional funding, being able to give students financially to be able to do study abroad programs and that sort of thing, everything is surrounded with this CDR. To be able to receive, to be able to push down that CDR, the Department of Education allows us flexibility with certain things. So having these pieces in place, it really puts the framework for that as well, so that we can work more aggressively in being able to reduce that CDR for our students and have more flexibility in disbursement of aid to them. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Okay, we good? Well, thank you all, and we'll be in touch with all this stuff. I'm sure we'll be at your, we'll be talking next week, some of you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to take a quick look here at our agenda. Thank you. So next we have Jeffrey Lanuez from HR, who's going to talk to us about the new administrative structure and direct reports for the ELT.
Thank you, Dolores. Yes, it's in there. Thank you. So I want to talk to you about the department structure, some changes we've made, our initiatives, the work that we're doing in human resources to support the mission and support student success, really in terms of offering quality service to all of you to help run your departments and focusing on human capital. So first of all, I've spoken to about half of this group about the new model, which is business partners, senior human resource consultants. So in the past, we've had a department where there were specialists, talent acquisition, employee relations. We've moved to a model where you'll be connected and you'll see who's who on the next slide, where we're offering you a full service. I also have a slide to show you how much service we're actually offering to you and what those things are for some discussion. So these are the consultants designated to the different areas. I'll send out an email to all college later this week with some more detail, but for this group I just want you to see, if you report to the person on somewhere in the chain on the right, the person in my department on the left is the person that serves your area. That got to be confusing. Yes, Morgan. Morgan, you're TBA. So here are all the different services that we are and will be offering to all of you. So some of these have not been offered before. Some of them have in an ad hoc way. Some of them have to just a certain degree. So these are all going to be full services offered to you. Workforce planning and staffing analysis is something new that I don't think the college was doing prior to this. We did talent acquisition. We called it recruiting. When I came about 7 months ago and looked at the recruiting process, I didn't see any actual recruiting. I saw hiring. So we embarked on an entire revamp, which we're still in the middle of, the actual recruiting process. I know many of you in the room are hiring managers and on hiring committees and have still been using our antiquated process, which now got a little rougher because the system was switched in the middle. But what we noticed was, although a lot of human resources activities and responsibilities are pushed out to the decision makers and the administration, there's not enough support to you to get those things done. We're going to bring you a level of expertise and professionalism to help you actually do some of these things that the college has empowered you and made you responsible for. In terms of talent acquisition, prior to looking at staffing, we really want to help you with business planning and looking at your workforce and what your needs are and helping you do a staffing analysis. I don't know that each department is doing that, but we are going to be doing that in partnership with you. Any questions as I go along? It might be better to ask questions midway. Yeah.
I was meeting with Kate earlier this morning just about our process, and so I'm not sure where it's reflected here. One of the things we talked about was workforce availability. So as somebody's going out and posting positions, how do they know what the diversity of a pool might look like? Is that reflected here?
It is in terms of the new talent acquisition process that we're working on and installing in My Career Center, which is really fueled by a product called Cornerstone On Demand that you might know or hear about. So this process currently lives in our general counsel's office, the affirmative action planning. Jeff and I are in discussions to roll that into the talent acquisition process now. So it is actually part of the talent acquisition process where it really wasn't before. It was more of a compliance function. We actually weren't meeting all the compliance initiatives that we should be. So that's going to be something that's proactive now. We're really excited about that. So we're meeting on that now. When we start to roll that into the actual tool, we'll include you as one of the stakeholders in that process to make sure we're designing it and installing it in the right piece. The rest of the team is in organizational effectiveness and development. You know, Dina and Angela and also Jessica are in OED. And then we have 3 support staff, Rachel, Bethany, and Kelly. And we also have a student working for us, thanks to Ari in financial assistance, helped us hire a student who's doing filing for us. So that took off some task-related things, so we can be doing more strategic work with the current staff we have. So that was a way that with our small staff, we're actually getting a little bit more work done and helping develop a student. So I wanted to show you a little bit about the work that we are doing and the projects we're working on. Our new service delivery model is a very big initiative, offering all these new services, adding new staff, and also developing current staff competencies. We're working hard on the HLC visit, working closely with Bruce. We have, of course, the large policy project that we've taken on. The Cornerstone On Demand tool itself is not just recruiting and hiring, as the applicant tracking system, but we're doing a lot of AI installed in this tool, so artificial intelligence, and also a lot of automation in the onboarding, so we can offload some of the process and tasks and use automation to do some of these things. That will also allow us to take on a lot more strategic work with our staff because they won't be doing processing of a lot of paperwork. How that connects to you is the processing of paperwork. I know that's a very big pain point here at the college. I see it almost on a daily basis where you folks are looking for a form to move some employee or do something or do some change. That is being automated as we speak. The consultant is Blue Water that's helping us with the Cornerstone On Demand product. Their time frame looks like they'd be done mid-December, so I'm going to tell you mid-January. But that'll be a lot of changes. It'll be something very, very different. Currently, we're using a 15-year-old recruiting process. This is going to be something very new, which will really affect you, the end users, in terms of the process itself, but also the quality and diversity of candidates is something we're really focused on. That leads us into also the quality of candidates. We haven't been doing assessments, so we want to assess candidates in terms of digital skills, in terms of anything that is specific to the position. So that'll be something customizable when your human resources consultant meets with you about talent acquisition. Not only will it be a project management plan so we can move it along in a timely fashion for all parties, but it'll also be extremely customized for the position you're looking to fill, which will increase the quality and diversity of the candidate you wind up with. Assessments could be anything you really wish. We're talking about language skills also, and we're talking about technical skills with the folks at M&S. They have got, we hire, for example, electricians, so we can have assessments for all those things where currently we don't. Next, the learning management system is another module and cornerstone. The learning management system is okay. It's the most functional in the tool right now, except the transcript issues that some of us know we're having. So we've got trainings that we need to all be taking, but you go into the transcript and it doesn't exactly say what you've taken and what's not taken. That was a data integrity issue that there's a lot of folks working on. They've been working on it for literally months to try to solve the problem. It's not that easily solved, but we're still working on it. So the learning management system just has that piece that needs to be fixed. It's not a total revamp of the system. The performance evaluation, the tool and the process are going to change come the new year for staff, not for faculty, but for the staff process. That is something that was developed with a lot of input from the different employee groups, which is a great thing. However, it was missing a few key items. There's some key performance indicators missing, including a tie to compensation. And then also there wasn't consideration into the actual tool it was going to go into after the performance evaluation was created. So those of you that use the performance evaluation system, you saw that that's a pain point also. A lot of emails, reminders throughout the year that goals need to be approved, mid-cycle needs to be approved. There must be 10 emails that go out to you. It's not really an effective process. So we'll change that. That is literally rebuilding the process and then installing it in the tool itself. And then the compensation study. Right now we're engaging with finance, the compensation and classification team. Myself, Aida, met with Daniel, and we started talking about budget and RFPs. We will roll in quite a number of stakeholders when we move that process forward by the end of the year. The goal is to select a vendor and start a district-wide that's inclusive of every single position, comp and class study that will include staffing analysis and job descriptions. I would just guess that's going to be about a 2-year process, and that will start in July of this summer. And then here are some of the college and chancellor's goals that touch human resources and also OED, and also some of you, of course, on the same teams working together. So continuous quality improvement, that's something that OED has met with IRPI, with Nick, and we're moving that initiative forward starting this month. Leadership development, continuing that and also enhancing what we're doing. Customer service training, something that the college has been offering, but only a piece of it, only a class of it. What we want to do is institutionalize customer service. Very, very big initiative that will touch every single employee at the college. The comp class study, and then continue providing regular training. So in the past couple months, you saw a mandatory training list go out. We also realized that we don't offer or don't require regular updates to training. So it was a great opportunity to see some opportunities that we have and revamp some of that as well. How are we going to do all this? I think we all think this. Does anybody not think this? So in our department, we're looking at continuous quality improvement of really everything we do, but right now specifically we're spending a lot of effort on the entire hiring process and employee life cycle. So we're really taking a serious look at any automation that we can possibly get out of not only the Cornerstone on-demand tool, but partners that connect. So I want to give you an example of that. So we have here's an example. We've got a lot of traffic in human resources of new hires. They come in to fill out paperwork. They come in to get this employee photo. Then it gets emailed to facilities. We're going to automate that. I estimate that a minimum of 80% of our foot traffic into human resources will be instantly reduced come January because these things will be online and automated. It'll provide much better customer service to the candidates that are selected. It'll cut down a lot of process and tasks for the staff, again, so we can do a lot more with the current staff that we have by installing this automation. We're looking at our own department staffing, getting the right people in the right seats. And also, we see ourselves, and as I talk to some of you, I really see that we get stuck in the daily whirlwind of activity. We spend a lot of time getting current work done and not a lot of time on strategic work and moving the college forward and really moving that needle that each speaker spoke about. So my team is using the 4 disciplines of execution. Has anybody read this book? Do you use it at all at work? Anybody? Yeah? David's shaking his head, yes. So we're really focusing on what should our goals be. They're wildly important goals. What can we control in our department and get done and really move the needle on and be effective? Acting on lead measures. So this is really going to help us with Nick's work with the data warehouse on using key metrics in human resources to really make a difference for you and our mission around human capital. So as another quick example, is another tool we're using, employee relations. We all know that employee relations is rather large at the college, dealing with issues. One of the only ways to stem that is using the metrics to see why these things are. Right now we don't have those systems in place. Daniel helped us just get approval today to start using a tool that was extremely cost effective that we're using in ODR. The Office of Dispute Resolution uses a tool called Ethics Point and a hotline. We're using the tool in a similar fashion, same tool but not with a hotline, to start recording every single employee relations issue that's called to us by either you or the staff. This tool will track where it's coming from, the reasons, the people, the departments, so we can really start to analyze why these things are happening and use that data to affect positive change in the business operations. And then lastly, the 4DX tool talks about a cadence of accountability, actually following up to making sure that our team is getting these things done. I'm going to stop talking to see if I can answer some questions. Whoops. But what I wanted to do for a few minutes, if you don't have questions, is talk a little bit about culture and also empowerment. I've been at meetings in private and in groups where I've heard the Chancellor, Tom, the ELT talk about powering down decisions. Also, a lot of the terms is holding people accountable, but to me it's also, in a positive way, empowering all of us. So when we're in this room together, I want to make sure we're all hearing the same message, that we're empowered to do the right thing, that we're empowered to make decisions, that we're empowered to push down decisions to the right decision maker. And if you're not hearing that, I wanted it repeated by the Chancellor in front of you, or Tom, and have a little bit of a discussion about that and what that means. I say this and want to facilitate that conversation just for a few minutes because I still hear in departments maybe a little bit of, well, I'll use this term, for lack of a better word, a little bit about fear or a little bit low risk taking because of past history at the college. This isn't that place anymore. So I fortunately am fairly new to the college, just 7 months. I know some of you have been here a lot longer and have a lot more history here, but I want you to hear from myself, from the Chancellor, from the ELT, that it is a different place, that you are empowered to do the right thing, that you're empowered to effectively lead staff, make changes that are necessary. If it's a discipline issue, work with my team immediately to help resolve that. So it's a win-win scenario for the employee, for you as the leader, and the department. I see a lot of cases in my department where these employee relations issues have gone on for years and years. That's never going to happen again. So the only way we're going to help you is to know about those things and then effectively help you on the front end of it. Anybody want to talk about that empowerment? Please.
So mine's a small little request. So as the hiring authority for adult education, it would be great if I was the last person to sign that little form. But I have to send it to David, and then he has to sign it without a whole lot of information, not being a part of the committee or, you know, that kind of thing. And so I feel like that is just a little small form thing you could fix.
Absolutely agreed, and we're working on that. We see a lot of forms for many different reasons where the chain is very similar, that it doesn't need to be, or maybe it's not going in the right path. We also see forms that, of course, are paper that have to be hand delivered by somebody, and that takes time. I even get a lot of forms for approvals, let's say from some expenses in my department where I have no idea what it is, or changes in your department that it's not effective for me to see. And that if you as the decision maker, or you use David as an example, some of these things could stop somewhere a little bit sooner and a little quicker. Agreed, we're working on that. Yes?
Something that impacts students, federal work studies and VA work studies, could we look at the process to get their background checks and all that done so we can put them to work sooner?
Yes, so we've revamped the entire student hiring process with RE as well. But again, that's at the consultant. You won't actually see that happening till to the beginning of the new year. Something that takes a lot of time in her department and mine is exactly what you're saying, the background check. And it's an extremely manual, cumbersome process with multiple touch points by multiple staff members. The way this is working in the past is somebody like Ari would have started it for the student, with the student. That student might have had to come into the office to sign papers, and then there was 3 different people checking to literally to see whether this was done and when. Ari, in financial aid students, Kelly in my office and Jessica were all checking a manual Excel sheet that they were all writing on to try to facilitate this process happening as soon as possible. Come January, that entire process will be automated. We're not going to see it happen. The student will be given, or any employee will be given, the background check to sign. It needs no human intervention to go to the background check company to get it started. Then it finishes and it comes back, and it'll actually flip us, if it's passed, which 90+% of them are with no problems, it'll actually flip a switch in the system and move the process forward with no human and time element holding it up. And that'll be for all the hiring process.
So to speak to your question about facilitating the discussion about empowered decision-making, I've given a thought about this constantly in coming to this institution. And one of the things that I really experienced intensely upon arriving as we began to implement things for PIMA Online, everywhere I went, there was the question or evaluation of, is that in policy? Can you do that based on the policy? And what I experienced constantly was, because it's not in policy, you can't do it until it is. And that was a real, taking the decision making and putting it into, not to degrade the great work that like Ted and Aubrey are doing with the policy stuff. We need all that still. Very important, right? But it was very difficult to be empowered on decision making, and so that was just a big awareness, and I think the college has done a lot of work to try to balance that. I've tried to think a lot of why we were so policy heavy, and I'm speculating that because we're such a large institution and there was so much independent stuff going on at the campuses, it helped to cover that, to keep it consistent. But the one thing that I'm thankful that we are shifting more towards decision making, and I just need to mention one thing for us to keep aware as we do that, because I've stepped in it a couple times really well when I've gone out hard on a decision, is trying to be very communicative about the possible impacts, because that's what policy negates, like that I'm not going to impact another part of the institution. And because we're so large, we're at risk of that when I start to jump out hard in a decision without making sure I've completely vetted it and talked with every stakeholder or aspect.
So a couple different things. Thank you for your positivity on why you think policies were created here, but you're not exactly accurate. Because of your positivity. A lot of policies were created to deal with issues. So when we went through all these policies, which there was 30 years of policies, and we engaged this outside consultant, which is really great that we're still engaged with, we looked at policies, and she even said, Oh, that was obviously written because Joe and Ann had a disagreement, and you created a policy to stop that from happening. We are no longer doing any of that. That's all going to be removed from policy. Policy is going to be very short, very succinct. It's going to facilitate business and student success, and then it'll give you some examples of how to use it. It'll be all online. It'll be easy to use. Your business partner will be in your office talking to you up front in meetings, just understanding what actually you do and what your business is, and listening for cues where we can help you with anything to do with people. It's going to be extremely different. These things aren't going to get in your way of business. We want you to step out much quicker. We want you to move the needle as quick as possible. So thank you for thinking so positive. It will be, and these things won't be in your way. The policies will be to facilitate business and student success. There's a lot of good changes coming. It'll be a little bit difficult for some employee groups because there'll be some changes, but with the right culture and the right leadership as we have in the room, it's not going to negatively impact anybody. But it'll seem like it. It'll be a little scary to have some of those things removed. But as long as we act and do the right things, people will see by example that this is a positive thing. 95% of people.
So, this is for tall people. So I have two questions. Number one, the proposed changes in class and comp. Will that include a detailed analysis of current standards in industry to ensure that we are attracting the best candidates out there and compensating them appropriately at that level, number one? Number two...
The answer to number one is yes.
Okay, good. Number two is what is the current status of the faculty instructor versus staff instructor rift in there for programs that employ both classifications and move them from one program to another to achieve the actual outcomes of the program?
So I don't know that I have all the detail to give you, but I can tell you that's a conversation we're having where we do see the dynamic that you're talking about. We're having those conversations with Dolores and especially the student affairs team to determine what is the best way to facilitate business, teaching, and student success. So it's an area where we are looking at and addressing.
Both a question and a comment. So org charts. I want to make sure prior to the HLC visit that all of the folks in this room go through their org charts and then go through their organizational charts with all of the faculty and staff, because it's crucial that every single person understands their line in the organization. So are those org charts all ready to be reviewed by everyone, or have they been reviewed by everyone?
Yeah, they're updated once a month. We have a lot of changes. So we just submitted, it might have been a couple weeks ago, the last org chart to Bruce and the team that's writing and submitting for the HLC, and it was submitted. We had a lot of major changes since then, and we'll continue. So we are going to continue that monthly and posting it on the website. So if you see changes that need to be made, a lot of that is facilitated in Banner. We're pulling that information out of the system. So if you see an error, it's probably because we need some sort of change to that employee or that line of supervision in the system, because that's where we're just pulling the data. So it's good for twofold reasons, to get the data correct in the system too.
Do we have, speaking the same thing, do we have some processes to better integrate our electronic submissions so that payroll and org charts and HR classifications and all are aligned, so maybe we would be able to submit one type of form to be able to do these things instead of the 3 or 4 we have to now?
Yes, so that is on our mind. We did meet with IT and the ESC, Human Resources, and Raj helped us lead a session just a couple weeks ago on how do we accomplish that. It's a much bigger thing to tackle than I imagined, but we are going to get it done even if it's piece by piece. There's a lot of different systems, so there's different forms to do different things. What we'd like to see is one place for you to go, so it's simple to understand, and then the automation behind the scenes maybe make some of those changes for you where you don't really need to know which system's it in, who needs to approval next, that it just moves it along. Hi, Bruce.
Hello. So last night, Ari Clifford and I were looking at the org charts just before we submitted them. And there are, at this time, what we submitted last night, they're not accurate according to exactly what Jeffrey is saying, that because of the changes that have occurred. So my plan is that I think when the HLC reviewers get here, that we give them at that time the most up-to-date org charts that we have. Basically give them a hand copy and also electronically send it to them by email so that when they are doing the visit, for the comp visit, they have it, and then they're going to be looking at the individual campus structures as well. So I wouldn't sweat it too much, but I think that at that point in time, we're going to have to address it because, and looking at them last night, like I said, there are some people that have left the college. There's also some people who have moved around. So I wouldn't put too much pressure on yourself right now, but at the time of the visit, I think it's time for us to have the most accurate representation. Go ahead. I do have a question. So one question that I have is, we have multiple mechanisms by which we establish goals. So we have, our strategic goals, we have our unit plan goals, we have the chancellor's goals, those types of things. And it's really been a challenge for us to align those things with what we actually put into the evaluation system that the individual employees are going to get evaluated on, because everything doesn't actually align and fit within that system. So what is the the relationship going to be between those goals and the system, the evaluation system that we have in place, or is that something that we're going to look at tweaking in the future so that more aligns with what we've been charged with being accountable for, and it's actually in the system?
Yes. So with the complete redo of the staff performance evaluation process and entering in the tool, that is a top priority. We heard that many times, that there was two different pages or two different areas, if you will, to put in goals, and they really didn't align, and it was very difficult and also a manual process if you wanted to take your college goals, chancellor goals, re-enter them. But it also comes back to your own work in your departments, that strategic alignment of your business plan, and that's something I think that we could really help you with and concentrate on and boil down to what are the wildly important goals in your department, how to still get the work done, but save time to do some strategic work. It's not easy, and I think you need support and empowerment and encouragement and partners to do that with, and that's what we're here for.
So I have one comment, actually, related to the org charts. It actually relates to academic leadership. So last week, I went to visit one of the faculty resource centers it was at the West Campus, actually, and had conversations with the staff. They were very meaningful conversations. But one of the things that they said was that a lot of the adjunct faculty come in asking who their department chair is and who their dean is. So they're not aware. And if HLC comes and asks a random adjunct faculty, who's your department chair, who's your department head, who's your dean, yeah, they don't know. I mean, that's not going to look very well. So I would encourage the deans here in the room to make sure that there's something sent out, or that the faculty resource centers at all the campuses have some kind of, I know Morgan and Jeanette have been working on a Google Doc, but make sure that the staff have access to it too. So, and just encourage the deans, maybe touch base with department heads and faculty.
So two things on that and the org charts. Are you all familiar with a tool that IT created for us called the Supervisor Lookup Tool? So that you can put in any employee name, and it'll show you who they report up to. So if you ever needed to know that, or ever wanted to see if it was accurate, that's the quickest, easiest way. In terms of the org charts that a few of you mentioned, we pull that data out of the current systems. This is a very manual process. We put it into Excel in a pivot table. Then we put it into another program, Org Charts Plus, that we pay $10,000 for. And it takes hours to do. We're slowly diminishing the time it takes to do it, but we also see that we already have some tools that will do it, just not make it exactly so pretty as Org Charts Plus. So Banner will Banner will feed Cornerstone this information, and Cornerstone, when all the whole entire suite is implemented and pulled together, you'll easily be able to see that. Cornerstone will also do things that we're not doing right now, like succession planning and career pathing. So there's a lot of major employee benefits to getting this thing up and running, which is one of our top initiatives to do. But I'm hoping it would also take off the task and the cost of reproducing an org chart. So all the time you could push a button. The problem with Cornerstone right now is it's built to only give you a certain number of pages. All the data's in there. So I asked them to try to create us a custom report where we could just push a button. Like Nick was saying in her department, 30-hour or 300-hour project is now 2 seconds. That's what we've asked the consultant Blue Water to do for us. All the data's there. The tool only gives you, let's say, 100, and we just want to expand it to the entire college. It seems like we're so close, and I'm sure the technology will do it, just the consultant needs to figure out how to get that done. That'll be a massive difference with what we're doing now. Thank you for your time. If there's something we can do for you, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Lots of good discussion. So when I talked about the Education Master Plan, I touched upon guided pathways, but now we have Nina Corson, who's going to be talking about the new architecture of pathways and her new role. So we're very grateful that you're here.
Hi, thank you. Do I do this myself? Is this? Okay. That is not my slide. Other way, okay. All right, well, thank you so much for having me here today. I am going to talk to you a little bit about guided pathways. Why are we doing guided pathways? Student success, right. What problem are we solving here? We're really solving two problems. Our graduation rates, the success of our students, right? And the second problem that we can address through guided pathways is our enrollment problem. Okay, so I have 5 bullet points on the screen. Do they look familiar to everyone? If you've read any of the Complete College America literature, and I'll talk about that organization in a minute, you'll know that they promote 5 game changers. That's actually what they call them, game changers. These are 5 strategies that if colleges implement, they see significant increases in graduation and student success. So the first game changer is 15 to finish, right? But let me back up for a minute. I hear skepticism around the college that we have implemented guided pathways. We had a very ambitious goal to implement guided pathways in 1 year. Well, the reason I put the slide up here like this is so that you could see that in all 5 of the game changers, we have implemented significant initiatives, right? So if you take our 15 to finish initiative, this is about getting students, right, to take 15 credits so that they can actually graduate on time, 15 credits a semester. We're not going to get them all to take 15 credits, but we might get some of our part-time students to take 1 more class, right, 1 more class, if we show them how long it's actually going to take them if they just take 1 or 2 classes a semester. So the 2 main things we've done for 15 to finish, this idea has been incorporated into our group advising sessions that our program advisors are doing. They sit down and they tell students, look, here's how long it's going to take you if you go part-time. But if you want to finish in 2 years, here's how many classes you need to take. Additionally, this idea has been incorporated into our new student orientation. Now, I have numbers. I wrote them down over here. There is some early indicators that this is working. Last fall, our students took an average of 2.6 sections each, 2.6. That has gone up this fall to 2.7. It's a little bit, but you know how hard it is to make that happen? Yeah, That's good data. The second game changer is math pathways. You know, being from a math background, I get annoyed that everybody thinks this is the math faculty's fault. Math faculty do not pick the math class that is required for their major, right? So part of our process that we implemented last year when we re-looked at all of our programs, we looked to see what was the math class that made the most sense for each major. And what is that default class that our advisors tell students, our undecided students, to take? We have 4 math pathways at this institution. We have a course for our career and tech programs. We actually have 2. Some of our career and tech programs needed their students to focus on geometry and trigonometry. That's our GTM 105. Some of our career and tech programs wanted a more statistics and spreadsheet-based class, and that's our Math 106. We have the liberal arts pathway. That's our Math 142. We have a weird name for it here. It's called Topics in Mathematics. It's really a quantitative math class. It's a really good class. That has become our default class. Our advisors are advising undecided students into that class, not college algebra, not pre-calculus. The universities have gotten on board with this. The University of Arizona used to have many, many majors that required college algebra, and they did that to weed out students. They only wanted the successful students in their programs. Well, now they're funded on enrollment by their different divisions. So guess what they did? They look and said, well, what math class do we actually need our students to take? And more of them are picking the equivalent to our Math 142. So it helped us to be able to put Math 142 in the majority of our programs. And in fact, there's some statistics out there that 80% of students end up getting a bachelor's degree in something that didn't require college algebra, right? So we're guiding students through our counseling and advising staff into that Math 142. We also have a business track. College algebra now primarily serves business students. That's really about it. We have a pre-calculus track for our calc students and STEM majors. Okay, so we did that. Co-requisite support, game changer number 3. Man, I can't wait till you hear Jeff Teese talk later, so I don't want to talk too much about this. But the idea of co-requisite support is that you put students into their gateway college-level math or writing class, and you give them the developmental support at the same time. There's sort of a just-in-time method, right? We're doing a lot of that, and I'll let Jeff tell you about that more later. The other thing I want to talk about is that it's not really co-requisite support, but we've opened the doors to more students and reduced the number of developmental classes they need. Math 106, that's one of our career and tech classes. It used to have a prerequisite. It was a 2-credit class. It's now a 3-credit class, and all of the prerequisites are built in. There is no placement into Math 106. Students can go straight into it. Math 142, we have lowered the prerequisite to ensure that students are not forced to take developmental content they don't actually need for that class. So we've realigned the prerequisite for that class. Game changer number 4 is the momentum year, and this might be the least understood game changer of all. This is our first year experience, really. By the end of the first year, students need to know their major. They can't be undecided after year 1. So year 1 is all about setting students up for success and making sure that they know where they're headed by the end of that year. We've identified meta majors to help students. We're not calling them that. We're calling them areas of interest, right? The literature says meta majors, but we chose to call that areas of interest. So imagine a new student that comes in and we say, hey, what do you want to study? And they go, I don't know. And we hand them a list, an alphabetized list of 120 areas of study. That's just so overwhelming. It is so much easier. There's a little psychology to this. If you hand them a list of 9 general areas, they can probably focus in and say, hey, I like one of these. And then throughout that momentum year, we as an institution help guide those students to narrow down their specific area, their specific program of study within that area, right? We have also connected all of our undecided students to an advisor through PIMA Connection, right? Through our PIMA Connection software. Game changer number 5 is academic maps with proactive advising. So this was a huge undertaking. I'll talk to you about it in a minute. But all of our academic maps are posted online. Do you guys know how to find them? It's pretty cool. It is really pretty cool. If you go to the old program pages and look over on the right, there's sort of like 3 black boxes on the right. One of them says something like academic map. I think that's what it says. Say that again? Thank you. Semester pathways. Check them out. They're there. They're beautiful. It tells students exactly what to take when. That was a major accomplishment that we did last year. And then, of course, PIMA Connection. I mentioned PIMA Connection already. All of our new students are connected through this software to either a program advisor or a counselor. So I want to pause for just a minute. You have a handout on your page. I'm not ready to send you to the website there, but I want you to talk to each other for just a moment and think about the core themes that Nick quizzed you on earlier. And think about each of those 5 game changers and which core theme they support. Y'all need a little help with the core themes? Remember, there's student success, access, teaching and program excellence, student services, community engagement, diversity, inclusion, and global education, and institutional effectiveness. See if you can figure out which core theme each of those 5 game changers align with. I'll give you a minute. Community engagement. Where does you guys answer? Oh, you know what? They certainly could. They certainly could. Okay, I'm hearing everyone thinks this is a trick question. Student success, which game changer? All of them, right. What about access? All of them, okay. Yeah, I'll buy that. I specifically see it in number 3, where students can access education, right? Because we're not keeping them out through layers and layers and layers of developmental education, right? That one's very clear, but I'll buy all of them. Teaching and program excellence. 2, definitely. What else? 4, right? 4, our faculty advisors, right, are definitely going to be there. 5, you know what I really liked about number 5 and making those maps, those semester maps? I like that our faculty now know all the requirements of their programs, right? That's awesome. Student services, where's student services? All of them, particularly with the proactive advising, right? And our early alert, which I'm sure Jeff will talk about later. What about community engagement? And I gave the group that looked like they weren't doing anything the hard one. So they get to answer. Okay, I like that. Those are good answers. I'll tell you where I see it. Our semester maps, right? Many of our workforce programs, they've got to connect with the community to figure out what students need to be taking through their program. But also there is an item that says engage, this is from our core themes, engage with national, state, and local authorities on institutional, I can't read my writing, initiatives that support our mission, right? We have engaged with Complete College America, right? So there's some other engagement. And what about diversity, inclusion, and global education? Oh, you guys are cheaters. Cheaters. Okay, I'll buy all of them. And institutional effectiveness, if we get more students to enroll through 15 to finish, that 15 to finish could certainly solve our enrollment problem. And we get more students to graduate, we have become a much more effective institution. Daisy.
I just want to say that this was a really good exercise, Nina, because it really challenges us to think about how do all 5 connect to all of our
Core themes, yeah. Thank you.
I believe they do. It's not a cop-out answer. It really does. If you think really critically about how each one of those connect to all of the things.
Thank you. You know, I did that with my faculty group at my last faculty meeting. I had them think about what we do and how it connects to all of our core themes. And it was a really good exercise because they all thought we only did academic success or whatever the first one is. But we actually do them all. Okay, so I have a lot of stars up here, and I promise I'm not going to talk about all of them. But this highlights some of the awesome accomplishments we did last year to implement guided pathways. Our chancellor, when he first got here, Lee invited, you didn't go, I don't think you went, but he invited a bunch of us to go to Phoenix for a Complete College America sort of introductory session. We joined, we're an alliance member of Complete College America, and this institution led the way to start Complete College Arizona. So there's a few institutions that have joined us on this initiative. Many states do this initiative statewide. We don't really have a statewide system like a lot of other places do, but we are the leaders in the state for Complete College America's guided pathways. I want to tell you a little bit about the course audits. Dolores mentioned early that it was bumpy, right? This was a little bumpy. The very first thing we did was a course audit, and those of you not directly related to academics maybe didn't experience the pain that we went through to get this done. But I'm so proud of our department heads and our discipline coordinators. They dug in, they did the research, they looked at peer institutions, they looked at every single course in our course bank, compared it to other institutions to see, well, how many credits is this class at our peer institutions? What are the prerequisites for this class at our peer institutions? And where we were off base, we changed. We lowered the credits in a lot of our classes. The example everybody knows about is Psych 101. We've been 4 credits for years. Well, why? We were the only one. So our psychology faculty, they did what they needed to do, and they changed that to 3 credits. Jenny Conway gave me one statistic that through all of our programs that we have overall, we have reduced the credits by 106 credits. If you look at all of our courses that reduced. So that's a lot of savings for students. That's a lot of credits that they take here that didn't used to transfer because our class was 4 credits, but the university was 3, so there was 1 credit that didn't count for anything. Some of our faculty are still very unhappy about that, but they're coming along, and I do think that they're starting to see the benefits of that. After the course audit came the program audits and the redesigns, and this is where our faculty learned a lot about general education, the C, the I, the G. What are the classes that make up a degree? Many of our faculty only knew the classes that were in their subject area that made up a degree. Well, now our faculty see the whole picture. So we redid all of our pathways. We included a first-year experience, and we resubmitted almost every program that this institution offers. I suspect that I have colleagues that will talk about some of these other initiatives because Guided Pathways, Student Affairs is certainly involved in Guided Pathways. Jeff Teese is going to talk about DevEd. So that is all I'm going to talk about on this slide unless y'all want to come back to it and I can ask questions. So the next slide is another question, and I hope it's not a trick question. Is this going to load? Is this in PowerPoint, or did y'all turn this into something else? It says start the presentation to see live content. Still no live okay. Y'all go to the website and just see if this is going to work. There's a website on the handout. This is supposed to be one of those engaging activities where you vote. And the question is, how many awards do we offer at this institution? I don't know if it's going to work. I didn't get to test it in here. Is it asking you a question or no? Right, so then this is what's supposed to be started. I don't know, that's okay. We can do this the old-fashioned way. So close your eyes because I don't want to embarrass anybody. Raise your hand if you think we offer 7. I know it says 5, but it's supposed to say 7. 7. Raise your hand if you think we offer 7 awards. No hands? Okay. Raise your hand if you think we offer 15 awards. Got one in the back. How about 65? Okay, a couple hands. Thank you for voting. 120? Everyone thinks we have 120 awards. Okay, how about 165? Okay, very cool. Well, I'm going to tell you a story. This was a trick question. That other one wasn't intended to be. When I was in college, I was a very scared college student and somehow ended up being a math major and was really intimidating to me. And I worked my tail off. I worked so hard. I took so many math classes. And I was very proud to finish that degree. I was very proud. And then my diploma came in the mail. And guess what it said I earned? Yeah, I thought they got it wrong. I earned a bachelor's in mathematics. What the hell were they talking about? But I grew up, and I called the school, and I said, hey, I think you made a mistake. And I grew up, and let me see if I can do this the right way. And Pima, too, has grown up. So we used to offer degrees titled exactly what I wanted my degree to be titled. We used to offer a Bachelor's of Arts, am I out of time? In arts and in sociology, right? That's one of the examples. We did used to have over 100 different awards. So as part of this process, we had a very painful meeting that lasted 6 hours. I don't remember how many of you were there, but some of us came away wondering if we should still work here. I'm teasing. I'm just teasing. And we decided we were not going to offer a degree that said every single major on it. There's some good reasons to do that. You all laughed at me just a minute ago when I said I wanted a bachelor's in math. I didn't want that bachelor's in science, right? I wanted of course not, but we were doing that at this institution. So we have cleaned that up, and we actually only have 7 awards now, right? They're all listed up here for you. I might argue we could get that down to a few less, but right now we're at 7. So we have a degree or certificate. I don't know if you can see that. We have the degree or certificate, and then we have a concentration. That's what a lot of people think of as a major. We have the concentration, and then some of our concentrations also have a focus, right? And there's some reporting benefits to having fewer awards that we give. Nick could talk about that better than I can. But anyway, wrong way. This is my very last slide. I just have where we're going on our next steps. Our next steps are more graduates. This is a different picture, right? Next step is certainly higher graduation rates. We need to work on our social media marketing for 15 to finish, just marketing in general. Math pathways, I thought, what is there to do with math pathways? We've got them. I'm sure they will evolve, but what we will see is increased retention, right? You're seeing math enrollment go down. That's done purposely. We have students taking fewer dev ed classes, and we're getting them into the right class so they're finishing math faster. Co-requisite support, we're going to scale that up. We have a few more that we're developing. Momentum year, we've got a lot of work to do in the momentum year, and a lot of work to do with our proactive advising. And our academic maps, we need to add a few things to them. There's some key steps that students have to take along the way. For instance, some of our students take professional licensure exams while they're here. That needs to be noted on the academic map. When do you do that? What semester? When do you sign up for graduation? All of those little pieces will be added to our academic maps. So I will stop and thank you for indulging me in the activities and take a few questions. Yes.
Nina, I'm just wondering, the adjunct faculty to this model, where do they fit in and how quickly do they assimilate to where we're going? I'm very specifically looking at where the veterans impacted, especially those that are online and deployed out.
And then they float out. So I sort of heard 2 questions there. Our adjunct faculty are certainly part of this like every other faculty member. Some of our lead faculty, our discipline coordinators, actually are adjunct faculty. So they help us develop the pathways, and they are part of all the professional development sessions that you will hear about. In particular, with some of our developmental education initiatives, our adjunct faculty, they teach most of those classes, so we have to have them coming to the professional development to get that. Did you say something about veterans and online?
Correct. We've been having some issues, just misunderstandings. We have deployed airmen or veterans that get reactivated and sent into the wall of the border.
Right.
And they're taking online classes, but the adjunct faculty that we're dealing with is not understanding their issues to get to a computer to be able to stay active.
Okay. That is a good thing to think about, and one I'll probably have to brainstorm with Michael with. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Thank you.
So part of the gainful employment disclosures and compliance, things that we have to check off, this is specifically focused for our certificate programs. Beginning this January, students that are electing a gainful employment certificate program will have to affirm. So they will receive a notice via their MyPMS so that they can then go to the webpage so that they can read through and understand what the average indebtedness is, how long it takes the student to complete that program of study as well. So again, another piece here that is what the college is doing to align to all these federal regulatory pieces.
Great. Thank you. What else? Can I refer to your presentation later for the answer to your question?
No.
Okay.
When Guided Pathways started, we had teams that were developed to help support a lot of the strategies to be implemented.
Yeah.
Are those teams going to continue in the future, and will there be a separate team, or will those teams look at evidence of effectiveness of some of these pathway steps that we implemented?
That's a great question. Thank you, Jeff. So I have had 2 meetings. I've only been shepherding this effort for the college for a very short while. I've had 1 meeting with the college plan group that's responsible for these items. And then I had another meeting with the leadership that Greg had put together where there were 8 subcommittees. We talked about which committees need to continue, what work needs to continue, and I'm trying to put a structure together that will sort of meld those 2 groups instead of having 2 separate groups. But most of the work of those groups is continuing. Yeah, good question. There is what I was very pleased when I met with the groups was there was a strong desire to continue their work. So that was happy news. Nobody wanted to jump off. Thank you so much for your time, and I think lunch is next. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much, Nina. I think the visuals were really helpful and outstanding in comprehending everything. So just so you know, all of the PowerPoints will be emailed to all of you, so you'll have them and can share with your staff. Okay, so are you hungry? Yes, okay, it's time for lunch. So we have until, let's say, 5 minutes to 1, because Ian will be presenting at 1, so let's gather back at least 5 minutes to 1. So please go to the back, we have lunch. And you can go outside or you can stay here for it. So